Hey, what's happening, everyone? It's me, the man, the myth, the mustache, Tim here with a brand new video and series for you. Welcome to Season 1, Part 1 of What If Deku Was Recovery Girl's Grandson? Please sit back and relax because you're in for a treat. With that out of the way, let's get the story going, shall we? Society always remembers what they can see, especially if it's shiny, explosive, or charismatic. Hero Society is simply an extension of that. Countless eyes are focused on massively popular and powerful pro-heroes, paying little mind to the ones behind the scenes and on the ground that allow them to be as flamboyant and reckless as they are. Heroes, like Eraserhead and Recovery Girl, who provide endless utility capabilities, but can't make anything explode by glaring at it. Whether society paid much attention to them was, at heart, a non-issue for most rescue and underground heroes. And in the end, that was a blessing for Chiyo Shuzhenchi, the now elderly youthful heroine that had not forgotten to make time for herself while dedicating most of it to the people she helped, and to the cause against All for One, even if that part wasn't public knowledge. Neither was the next part. Here, she developed a family, one she did her best to keep on the down low, else they end up on the receiving end of All for One's wrath. But one she was happy with. It, of course, grew, and soon enough, Recovery Girl became a rather literal recovery granny. I'm sure you can guess who Chiyo's daughter and grandson are by now. Inko and Izuku Midoriya inherited the green hair of Chiyo's husband, and Inko inherited a version of his quirk. Inko herself eventually married a man with a fire breath quirk, so you can imagine Chiyo's confusion when her daughter called her in a state and demanded she come to see them at the hospital. They were there because Izuku's quirk had manifested, and it was apparently similar to her own. Chiyo was, of course, aware of the capabilities of quirks to functionally mutate and snowball in effect and power over generations. But the story Inko had told her over the phone had Chiyo's mind in overdrive. Apparently, Izuku had been playing with some friends in a nearby spot of woods, when at least one of them took a rather bad fall into a creek bed. Izuku had clambered down the side to help them, activating his quirk in the process, and healing the Bakugo boy that Inko had mentioned several times. The process of doing so had essentially laid the boy out with exhaustion, but Izuku also hadn't touched the boy at all in the process. Chiyo was very curious about how this quirk had apparently taken on a ranged aspect, and whether the boy had any aspects from his father's side. Her questions would be answered soon, she figured as she parked her car in a spot reserved for medical professionals at the nearby hospital. She walked through the stark hallways quickly until she reached the room where her family was. It was easy to spot, as it was partially flooded from tears. Entering the room, Chiyo saw several things. For one, her daughter was fretting. For two, the doctors were concerned about a high thermometer. For three, Izuku was laying down on the bed, very obviously tired and drinking an apple juice. That last one wasn't concerning. She just found it cute. Recovery Girl, it's good to see you. Mom, Izuku has his quirk. Yes, I can see that. Although it seems it hasn't developed without incident. Izuku tried to get up to give his grandmother a hug, but the sudden movement made him woozy, and he fell back down to the bed. Don't stress yourself, Izuku. Your quirk is already doing enough of that. Slightly weak, Izuku stammered out an, I can be a hero like you now. To say that made Recovery Girl's heart swell would be inaccurate, as that would be a heart attack. She was very grateful and happy in that moment, though, as was Inko. So, Doctor, what have you found so far? Well, this will help. The doctor handed Chiyo a clipboard with Izuku's sheet on it. She looked it over herself as the doctor explained. It would seem that Izuku has a particularly valuable healing quirk. He has the ability to heal others by draining his own energy. An inversion of my own. Losing the touch requirement and using your own stamina to accelerate healing instead of using the subject's. What about his temperature, though? It's odd. He does not have a fever, per se, as he's not hot to the touch, and the touchless thermometer also came back normal. But the mouth thermometer is showing heat great enough to blister skin. His father, quirk is fire breath. He likely inherited the heat aspect without whatever fuel his father uses to create the fire. That sounds likely then. Then the ranged aspect of his quirk is likely from me. Inko chimed in. She was more than used to having doctors talking near her and had been looking over her mother's shoulder at Izuku's sheet. And yet, your quirk is attract small objects, but Izuku transmits his energy towards a person. Oh, I wonder. Perhaps the attraction aspect is there. Recover Girl walked over to Izuku's hospital bed. The kid was quite tired and nearly asleep. But she had an idea. Izuku, sweetie, do you remember what using your quirk felt like? The boy hummed an affirmative and started trying to describe it, but didn't have the right words. It was kinda like trying to put water through a hose? I don't know. It's all right. I'd like you to see if you could maybe replicate the sensation in reverse. Instead of pushing your energy out, try taking mine in. If she was right, then the current problem would be fixed soon. Spoiler alert, after a couple months of trying, Izuku did get it to work. Anyway, Recovery Girl felt herself begin to get tired, a slight feeling of exhaustion creeping in, but not by too much. She figured it was worth it after Izuku succeeded in standing up and hugging her. Does this mean I can be a hero? Absolutely. One of the greats, I'd say. She wasn't lying. It may be a fledgling quirk at the moment, but it was already showing signs of being incredibly useful. But whether Izuku became a hero or not in the future, she was sure that she was proud of him. This video is sponsored by Adobe. Adobe is redefining the digital experience through game-changing innovations that shape the next generation of storytelling. Adobe makes it easy to create, edit, and share digital documents securely, allowing you to collaborate and communicate across devices. Adobe Photoshop is your go-to application for faster graphics editing and digital art as a whole. At We the Celestials, all our thumbnails across every channel are created with Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Premiere Pro is a timeline-based and non-linear video editing software application that is versatile and easy for beginning and master editors. Finally, Adobe After Effects is the industry-standard tool for digital visual effects, motion graphics, and compositing applications used in post-production. Many of our voice actors, audio editors, and video editors use Premiere Pro and After Effects to produce these high-quality videos. Click the link in the description to start creating now, and thank you to Adobe for sponsoring this video. A lot can happen in 9 years, and boy did everything seem to happen. Not long after Izuku obtained his quirk, All Might managed to seemingly destroy the boogeyman of the underworld all for one, allowing Chiyo to be significantly less stringent on who was allowed to know about Izuku and Inko's relationship to her. And that was good, because Izuku had showed incredible promise. Her initial assumptions about his quirk were correct. Short-range healing at will, using his own stamina as the fuel for it, accompanied by the ability to take and use the stamina of others to heal himself and others. Those two facets alone made Izuku far more versatile than even Chiyo was. And even beyond his strict healing, there was Izuku's searing spit, as they called it. That allowed him to cauterize wounds incredibly quickly. At first glance, it was innocuous, but you definitely didn't want Izuku to spit in your eye. That wouldn't end well. But now, Izuku was 13 and was about to try his hand at heroic schools. And Nezu just wouldn't take no for an answer. Chiyo had brought Izuku to UA several times over the years, and each visit saw Nezu making time to interact with the boy who was just a bit too smart for his age. Although Izuku's best memories of the visits were of meeting All Might a time or two, he wasn't a strict genius, but he was intelligent enough to catch the shrewd's attention. And his smarts, combined with a healing quirk, made Nezu very anxious to ensure he went to UA. After all, healing quirks were a rare and wonderful thing. Recovery Girl had started to introduce Izuku to the basics of first aid and medicine once he had turned 10, mostly because the boy was leaning into his quirk's uses in order to become a hero. With his graduation from junior high upon them, however, Chiyo was saddled with the decision of whether to recommend Izuku for the aptly named Recommended Students exam or to let him take the basic entrance exam, which she knew would be quite difficult for him with his only offensive ability being extremely hot saliva. It certainly wasn't hot enough to melt metal. On Izuku's side of things, life was good. He was still friends with Katsuki and had spent years trying to get him to calm down a bit, which had surprisingly worked. Without the idea of Izuku looking down on him saddled in his mind, and with a calmer presence around rather than a simple group of yes-men, Katsuki's bullying had all but ceased. He was still quite crude in his naming conventions and obsession with nicknames, though, and his values on the strength of heroes and his desire for victory hadn't changed. Izuku's quirk was undeniably useful, but it didn't stop Katsuki's declaration that he was going to be a sidekick for life with his lack of fighting ability. But the two remained true friends this time around, training and hanging out together. In fact, Katsuki's quirk training was a bit of a boon for the both of them. For one, Izuku's quirk allowed Katsuki to train more intensively, having sprains and burns healed quickly and letting him build strength faster, while at the same time, it let Izuku gain some control over his healing, being able to target and control it better. Of course, Katsuki also forced Izuku to take up endurance training to increase the energy he had available for healing, because he is, in fact, smarter than he tends to present himself. All of this tended to happen under the watchful eye of Recovery Girl, or in Katsuki's backyard, as they wouldn't be allowed to practice with their quirks in public otherwise. It was in one of these training sessions that Recovery Girl approached her grandson. Izuku had just finished healing one of Katsuki's shoulders after he had a bad bit of recoil, and was backing away so that he could injure it all over again when she walked up next to him. "You know, I see a lot of endeavor in him. He has the potential to be far better, though. Aggressive as he is, Katsuki puts far more emphasis on honorable victory and is more targeted. As for you, you remind me of a couple heroes. You know most of them now, and that is partly why I need to talk to you." "Yeah, okay, but what about, Grandma?" "The entrance exam." At this, Katsuki paused his own training to hear what this was about. The entrance exam's content wasn't a particular secret, but both he and Izuku had found it hard to find much information on it. The entrance exam is, in essence, a combat test mixed with an intelligence test. But you are fighting robots of various sizes and strengths during it. Katsuki will likely excel at it. "Ha! Take that, little green!" "Kachan, I'm not that short!" "You're shorter than me, and that's what matters." Chiyo chuckled before continuing. "However, that brings up the issue of your quirk. It is much more like mine, fewer combat applications. You certainly aren't helpless, but your two quirk facets, which could give you the upper hand, don't cause much outright damage, and only truly work on living beings. Your searing spit is aptly named and can cause blistering, but could it make it through metal alloy? I doubt it. You would likely weaken the metal at best. It's a very biased exam focused on grabbing daylight and spotlight heroes who can go toe-to-toe with villains like Muscular." The two students shivered at that. The incident with that villain had been all over the news. "All this is why I want to put you through the recommended students exam." "What?" UA's recommended students program was relatively well known. Any school or hero could put a student forward for recommendation, and they were almost always ridiculously powerful in either utility, combat, or both. "Awesome. You will have a better chance there, and with your healing quirk, I doubt Nezu would want to let you go." The rarity of healing quirks in the hero field would indeed be a factor. Recovery Girl alone had been instrumental in avoiding the deaths of many heroes over the years. "Nerd, if you even think about turning that recommendation down, I'll kill you myself." "I'd take you down with me." "I damn well hope so." Now, settle down, boys. But yes, Izuku, I'll be putting your name forward, if you want that." Izuku hesitated for a moment before nodding and smiling. In a little over 10 months, he would be attempting to get into his hero academia. And that's our video for the day, so thank you all for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I go, there's a little bit of housekeeping. First, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, then We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. So check it out if you're interested in that. Next, I also want to thank everyone who was involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Give some love to the writer and to the editors because they do a lot of work. Finally, if you like what we do here with the Celestials, then I want to extend the invitation to join our team. Well, with only one caveat though, you must be 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. And that's it for today's video once again, so thank you all for watching and have an amazing day. And as always, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and stay awesome. This has been Tim, Mustache out.